Each of the great cities of Greece sent an army to join the war against the Trojans. Each, that is, except for one. The city of Thebes refused to join the war, saying that it had no quarrel with the faraway Trojans. And so the Greek king Agamemnon decided to teach the Thebans a lesson. He ordered his men to destroy their beautiful city and take its treasure. And that is exactly what they did. While the ruined city of Thebes was still burning, the greatest of the Greek warriors shared out the prizes of war. King Agamemnon chose for himself one of the captives, a beautiful young girl called Chryseis, a priest's daughter. Agamemnon told her that she must live with him from now on and be his slave. The girl wept bitterly and begged to be returned to her father, but King Agamemnon had a cruel heart and was unmoved by her tears. Eventually, the Greek ships reached Troy, and the army set up a vast camp on the beach not far from the city. One evening, the good old priest, who was the father of Chryseis, arrived at the camp and asked to meet King Agamemnon and all the greatest of the Greeks. And this is how he spoke. "O Agamemnon, leader of men, may the gods grant your wish to destroy the magnificent city of Troy, and may all the Greeks return home safely in their black ships. But grant me this favour. Free my daughter, and accept in her place a gift of great treasure that I have brought for you." The Greek army cheered the old man for his generous offer, and for the love that he had shown for his daughter. But Agamemnon flew into a rage. "Old man," said he, "let me not find you hanging about our ships, nor coming here again. I will not free your lovely daughter. She shall grow old in my house in Argos, far from her home. So get out of my sight right now, or it will be the worse for you." The priest was afraid and swiftly left. But later that evening, he knelt down on the shore of the resounding sea and prayed to the immortal god, Apollo, of the silver bow. And Apollo heard the good old man's prayer for just revenge, and he took up his silver bow and fired arrows into the Greek camp. The arrows of Apollo brought disease, and many of the Greek soldiers fell ill. By far the greatest of the Greek warriors was Achilles. He was faster and stronger than any man alive, and also very proud. When Achilles saw the Greek soldiers dying of disease, he called a meeting of all the generals and spoke as follows. "Noble Agamemnon, though you are our leader, I must speak the truth. It was wrong to threaten the priest, a good old man who came to you with a generous offer. The gods are angry with us for what you did, and matters must be put right. You must return the lovely Chryseis to her father." King Agamemnon was surprised to hear such words, as he was not at all used to being told what to do. "Great Achilles," he said, "brave and strong you may be, but I am king, and I shall do what I like, and you shall know your place." To which Achilles replied, "You are too greedy. Why should all the Greeks suffer for your evil ways? I, for one, am not going to follow a leader like you into battle." Now King Agamemnon was absolutely furious, but he also understood that something must be done to appease the gods and stop the plague that was destroying his army. And so the next day, he ordered a boat to take the young girl back to her father. But he also sent messengers to the tent of Achilles and ordered him to hand over his own slave girl. And from that moment on, The pride of Achilles was so hurt that he refused to take part in the battle for Troy, but instead stayed inside his tent and sulked while the Greeks went out and fought. Soon after, the Trojans opened the great doors of their city, and their army marched out like a flock of wild birds, swooping back and forth and calling with screeching voices. Now the finest warrior among the Trojans was Prince Hector. He was the brother of Paris, but he was quite different in character. Hector was brave and noble, while Paris loved fine clothes and parties and enjoyed his riches to the full. As they rode out to battle, Hector said to his brother, "Paris, it is for your sake that thousands of brave soldiers will die today. It is only because you ran away with the Greek queen Helen that this great army has arrived at our gates with the aim of destroying our beautiful city, killing all the men and carrying off the women and children as slaves. It were better that you had not been born, my brother." When he heard this, Paris felt ashamed, and to make amends, he drove his chariot out in front of the Trojan army and towards the enemy. In his fiercest voice, Paris called out to the Greeks to send forth their bravest warrior and to fight him in single combat to decide the war, so that others need not suffer. On the Greek side, King Menelaus hated Paris more than any other man alive, and so Menelaus jumped out of his chariot and said, "I will gladly fight Paris, and kill him with my spear that is made of ash wood and tipped with cruel bronze." And when Paris heard this, he was so frightened that he coiled back like a man who has seen a snake, and he shrank into the protection of his men. Great laughter arose from the Greek army, and the Trojans were furious with Prince Paris for bringing shame on them. And then Paris began to worry that if the beautiful Helen heard about his running away, she would not love him any more. And so he gathered his courage and went out once more in front of the army and again shouted to the Greeks, "I call on you men to lay your swords and spears on the ground, while King Menelaus and I fight one another, hero against hero." And Menelaus did not give him time to change his mind. He hurled his spear at him so that it broke his shield, but just missed his body. Paris fell backwards, and soon Menelaus was on him, dragging him by the plume of his helmet towards the Greek army. But the goddess of love, Aphrodite, who was fond of Paris, saw what was happening and came to his aid, disguised as a cloud. She scooped him into her lovely arms and whisked him back to his palace, where the fair and fragrant Helen was waiting for him. And so the Greeks and the Trojans fought each other in battle. Many brave soldiers were killed and wounded on both sides. But so long as Achilles refused to help the Greeks, the Trojans were stronger and drove the Greeks back to their camp. At night, 1,000 campfires glowed upon the plain, and by the light of each fire there sat 50 men, while the horses champed oats and corn beside their chariots, and waited for dawn to come.